Welcome to Woodward Wings. I am Justice Satawa, and I am joined by a special guest today. Spenmo Rax is filling in for Flannel Sam as he had needed a rest day today, and I am honored, honestly. I love talking hockey with Spenny. He is a fiery persona when it comes to hockey. He's got a lot of big opinions, and I respect his opinions as well. So this is going to be a great show. We got a lot lined up. We're going to talk about this last week of games, 1 and 2 stretch. Tomorrow we have the Vegas, which is when this will be dropping. It will be the day of. We got some injuries that we're going to have to report, which are very, very bad to see. We're going to talk about Mrazek and how well he's played, and we're just going to talk about the general feel of the rest of the season. So let's start it off with the last week, Spenny. This last week, I got to say, has been disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, you're running into a brick wall. You know, you're playing these great teams. You're playing the Hurricanes, who are not as good as they have been the past couple seasons, but they're still a very good deep team, and you have to go out there and beat a team like that. Unfortunately, you know, you go into there, and then you got the Capitals, and that's one of the best teams in the NHL. And again and again and again, we see the Red Wings play teams like this. We see the Red Wings play the upper echelon teams of the NHL, and there's a period where they fall apart. There's a period where it all breaks down. They can't play a complete 90 minutes. They look like they're going to go out there and they're going to have success. They're going to be with this team. They're going to play the full game, and then something happens in one of these periods. Against the Capitals the past 2 times, it's been the third period that they just fall apart. And when I saw the Red Wings going into the third period 1-1 with the Capitals, it was kind of on the wall, like, If you're not going to have a lead going into the third period, you know the Caps are going to turn it up. Tom Wilson was doing what he does, going out there, bullying players, being that big presence. I wish the Red Wings had a guy like that, but unfortunately they don't. And it sucks. And that's where you can still see the Wings are kind of lacking when they're playing upper echelon NHL talent. They look like they belong for a little bit, and then at some point the bottom falls out and they fall apart.
Yeah, and that's just the depth thing. That Washington team goes 3 lines of goal scorers deep with a really nice fourth-line grind line. They all play the same style. They all play physical. And when you are playing a good game like the Red Wings are playing, but your depth just starts to wear, you start making those minuscule mistakes that you saw. You saw Edmondson not pick up a guy backdoor, which led to a goal. You saw Larkin have a bad back check and let up a guy wide open in the slot. There are multiple things that caused them to blow the tie game and to get blown out in the third period, but they're all fixable things that with depth and not having to overplay your superstars like Larkin and Cat and Seider and Edmondson, like they're making these minuscule mistakes that are uncharacteristic for them. And that's how you know it's because of the depth. Like this Washington team is plus 38 in the third period for a reason. Like they are an unbelievable third period team because they're so deep and they can wear you down for the first 2 periods and take those long times where they're controlling in the offensive zone with massive cycles, leaving you out for 2 minutes. Like I know Seider had a 2.5 minute shift in the second period. Like that can never happen. Like that's how you beat them down, and they were beat down in that third period.
And when you see the Red Wings just in their defensive zone so much, that wears down your forwards trying to play this defense on, is like you said, 3 great scoring lines of the Washington Capitals. You've got them playing on their heels for the whole third period, and that makes them get into their heads. That makes them think too much. That makes them kind of overcompensate for things that they shouldn't be, and that allows somebody to go backdoor. That allows somebody to get wide open in the slot because Larkin's trying to take care of something else. But I don't know. It is the depth. You could tell that the Red Wings have a solid top 6, but after that, I mean, you hope Casper can really be that 2C. I'm not sold on that just yet. Obviously, he's very young, so I mean, it's nothing on him. He's just got to grow up in the league. But you just need to see more guys step up. But right now, they don't have the bodies or truly the upper echelon NHL talent like you see these other teams in the East have.
100%. Like the Capitals have all 9 of their top 6 forwards are around 40 points plus. Like that's insane, and that's nothing.
That's why they're arguably the best team in hockey.
100%. And like depth is so important in this sport, and they have the high-end talent. They have good goaltending. They have great D. And
they do.
Yeah, they do. And that kind of goes back to this offseason. You know, they traded for Chichurin. They signed Roy, 2 guys that the Red Wings should have been in on. And I would expect them to be in on Chichurin this offseason. If they're not, then they're brainless. And I hate to say that because I never want to say that about Yzerman, but it would make 0 sense if they didn't go after a guy like Chichurin, who's a veteran defenseman who's not going to cost you too much, but he's going to cost a relatively high contract. But that's the veteran defenseman that this D-core needs.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a guy, you heard him in talks with Trouba last year. They were kind of all in on the Trouba camp. Unfortunately, his goddamn wife didn't let him come over. Leave it to a woman to ruin the Red Wings. No, but like this, if you're not going after a guy like Chicharin, what are you really doing? Like, I know that all these guys that you bring in, we're gonna bring in the nickel and dime Brad Holmes veteran defensemen with the Sherratts and the Gustafsons, and like those guys get exposed on the back end because they're not what they used to be, and what they used to be wasn't even what you want out of a veteran defenseman. So you need to get somebody in here that he can lead these young guys both vocally and physically, like not just a veteran to be the old head in the locker room, but a guy that's actually going to produce and they can actually learn from. Like, I'm fine with Sherratt if he's on your third pairing, but this 100%. Guy can't be on your top two pairings. You need a legitimate veteran defenseman that can play in your top pairing and put next to Mo Seider, because we're going to get into that later, but Mo Seider being next to Wallman and Sherratt for his career has kind of been a fucking letdown.
No, let's go there right now, because I think that he gets put into a negative light because he won the Calder and he had such a good start to his career and was showing so much promise, but there's been slander on the fact that he hasn't taken a real jump yet. And what I say to that is people who want to say, oh, well, Quinn Hughes already has won a Norris in his career, won the Calder. It's completely different. He's playing with Hronek. Hronek is a B-level defenseman at the worst. He is a guy who's getting paid $7.5 million. If you had Hronek on this team right now playing with Seider, Seider would be playing at that elite level because he doesn't have to cover for Sherratt's mistakes. Sherratt is a very aggressive physical defenseman that leaves Seider out to dry very often. And when Seider is not on the PK becomes atrocious.
Yes.
He is single-handedly keeping that unit afloat. And that's where I think that it's hard to be a part of the linear crowd, because I do believe he's grown linearly in the entire part of his career, but he hasn't taken that huge jump that's been expected, and I think that's just because he hasn't had someone who can really support him to take that jump.
Yeah, absolutely, and man, it would be really crazy to think of what Hronek would look like in a Red Wings jersey.
Yeah, I know, man.
I don't know where we could ever get an image of that. Wish we had a guy like that in-house that we didn't trade away, but I really think that I'm with you. When you look at Mo Seider, when you look at what fans want from him, and they're expecting this big jump, they're expecting him to be, a 20-goal scorer guy. It's not what he is. It's not who he is. Even if he's at his best, that's never going to be what he is. He's not an offensive defenseman. He's a strictly elite defensive defenseman. And you see the signs, you see the flashes, you see the periods, the stretches where he is that elite defensive defenseman. Nobody can do anything to him. He's breaking up fast breaks. He's breaking up 2-on-1s. He's crushing people into the boards, winning puck battles, and making things havoc for people. I just think that people expect him to be Quinn Hughes. Like, he's not Quinn Hughes. It's not going to happen. They're not the same defenseman. We talked about it in our hockey elite group chat with Sean, D-Mac, and Neil. And, I think Edvinsson has the best all-around potential amongst the D-core. I think Seider is going to be the best defensive defenseman, and then you got ASP, who's going to be your offensive guy. So, obviously, it will be better when he's not having to kind of overcompensate for the mistakes of a guy like Wallman or the mistakes of a guy like Ben Sherratt. If he actually had someone competent next to him, you would see his growth and you would see him becoming truly what he is. But it's also on him too. I'm not just going to free him of any blame, because he does play at a very high level, but he also makes very stupid mistakes that a guy like him should not be making. The Senators game
in particular, when he left that guy wide open back door, that's a mistake you can't make, especially when you're a defensive defenseman.
Yeah, and you could say that's him overcompensating for a lack of total team defense, because we only have, two really two-way forwards that are actually worth anything outside of Dylan Larkin. You got Rasmussen and then you got Mott. But I just think you need to – I think both things can be true in this aspect.
I think
where
it is.
You can ask for more of him, because what we believe he can be, what he's shown he can be in stretches in this league, is an elite top-tier defensive defenseman. And I need to see him being that at all times on the ice, because that's what the team needs. Fair. But it's also putting him next to Wallman and Sherratt in his career is not doing him any help.
No. And just for clarification, shout out to Chase for hitting me with the information. Well, we did get ASP with the Canucks pick, so we would not have ASP if we did not trade Hronek. So I'm willing. I'm 100% okay with that, because I am the ASP believer till I die. So
I called him Makarish a couple years ago. People called me crazy.
Yeah, I also got that same treatment. But we're going to be on the right side of history for this one, my friend.
I agree.
This is going to be the same as the Kirby Joseph interception thing. We're on the right side of history. But we got to preview this Vegas game. We just beat Vegas 3-0 at home this week.
Yeah.
The Vegas is depleted. They have not been playing well lately, and that gave you the opportunity to win. But going into Vegas is a different story.
It is. And like you said, Vegas is depleted. They're at the end of a road trip. I think it was the second game of a back-to-back the last time they played the Red Wings.
They had less than 24 hours.
Yeah, that is a totally different team than when you're going into Las Vegas, to a Stanley Cup organization, to a team that is going to be mad because they know they got embarrassed the last time they were on the ice against the Red Wings. The Red Wings are going to have to, have their sea legs fresh off the plane. Like, they're going to have to be ready to go, or Vegas is going to punch them in the mouth early. I think they need to be more aggressive, try to get downhill, try to keep the puck in the offensive zone as much as possible. They cannot be one and done in the offensive zone. You can't just get a shot and then have to backpedal back to your defensive areas and defensive positions. But this is going to be a tough one, man. I'd love to say, yeah, I could see the Wings going into Vegas and winning, but I think this is a spot game. Like the last game for Vegas was a spot game for them. I think this one's set up for them to get their revenge. And I hate to be the Debbie Downer, but like I looked at the Washington game. I was like, yeah, the Red Wings are probably going to get their asses whooped in this game. And they went out there and they played well for the first two periods, and then the third period they just fell apart. But like you said, going into Vegas against a team that is depleted, but now they're going to be more rested. They're going to be more ready to go. The home rink advantage is definitely better when you're playing in your own barn. You're feeling a lot better about yourselves and about your team. And this is going to be a game where the Red Wings are going to have to step up, or it could get ugly fast.
Yeah, the Vegas is 6-1-2 in their last 9 at home.
Yeah,
they just assassinated the Bruins 5-1 last night. And
I'm so happy the Bruins are falling apart, dude.
So
my God.
I mean, I completely agree. But it's going to be a tough game for going in there, especially without you're going to be without Soderblom, you're without Gustafsson.
Yeah.
You're going to have Rafferty back there at your third pairing. So
let's see Watson fight somebody.
Yeah, Watson. Yeah, I mean he's going to be gritty. But
yeah, we're going to get clapped.
I don't have a lot of faith. I hate to be that guy.
I mean, there's being a Debbie Downer and then being reasonable, looking at the situation rationally and expanding your feelings, and that's. The Red Wings are not playing good hockey right now. They're not. They're not putting full games together, and you're going into a hostile environment against a team, like I said, that just won a Stanley Cup not too long ago. So you need to be ready to go. And with this team that's already lacking in depth, losing a couple of their big depth pieces, I know Gustafsson is meh, but he is an important part of getting that offense going from the blue line. And then, Soderblom, he brings the grit, he brings some size, and he's been playing well lately. So losing those two guys it might not seem like the end of the world for a team that can make up for that with their other players. But the Red Wings, where they are now, they can't afford to lose anybody.
No, they cannot. And yesterday, they had Rasmussen up with Larkin and Raymond, and that takes away your depth and your back end. He's one of your few bottom 6 guys who's actually worth something.
Yeah.
And you're going to put him on the first line and deplete your lower lines even more. When Vegas goes 4 lines deep of very, very good hockey, they're fighting for the first seed and then the second seed in the West, because it's so much more important to play the lower seeds in the West, because all the teams in the West are so good in the playoffs. You want to be playing someone like Vancouver, the Blues, who's a lot weaker of an opponent.
Yeah, and Vegas is fast. They're physical. They get pucks on the net, and like you said, they're
hostile environment.
They've been very good in their own barn.
The home crowd gets behind them, and. Well, we got to get behind someone who didn't get a lot of love when the trade initially went down, and that's Peter Mrazek.
Yeah.
And that game against the Capitals cannot be put against him. He's been playing amazing hockey. He's a shutout. Before the Capitals game, he had just above a 2-point goals against average, 9.05 save percentage, really putting up good numbers. He's shown the consistency that this team has lacked in the goaltending position. I talked to my Blackhawks fan who's my roommate, and he was like, yeah, he's been hurt all year. Yeah. He's been unhappy with the locker room because they've been free-falling so bad and they haven't been helping him. So we just need to change the scenery. Like, that's a good move for you guys, especially only giving up Veleno, who was not playing that much and it wasn't really serving you any value.
No.
So I really liked Mrazek. The move, he's been playing terrific, phenomenally. And I'm interested where this leads us, because that leads us to our goaltending situation next year, because he's under contract next year. Talbot's under contract next year. Lyon will be hitting the door. There's no reason to re-sign Lyon.
Yeah, he's out of here.
And you obviously have Kosa waiting in the wings. So how do you think that this situation is going to go down?
I mean, I think you're going to go into the season next year with Talbot and Mrazek as your two goalies.
I agree.
And they're going to issue Kosa in when he's ready to go. But Kosa's not ready to start or to be that guy yet. And I think that's why they made the move for Mrazek at the deadline. And getting back to that real quick, I know that was poo-pooed by Red Wings fan, like, oh, you brought back Peter Mrazek, you brought in Craig Smith, these guys are nobodies. Why didn't you give me Mitch Marner at the deadline? Like, to be reasonable, the Red Wings weren't going to go out and get Mitch Marner because Steve Yzerman didn't want to get rid of any of his top-tier prospects or guys that you don't want to get rid of either. They did what they did. They brought in a guy who is an actual center in the NHL and can play some spots. They brought a guy who is an actual goaltender in the NHL and can give you some good help on that back end. I don't think anybody will ever question that Peter Mrazek is better than Alex Lyon in the net. So he has been playing well. He has been doing some good things lately, and we'll see what goes on. But next year, I don't think we're going to see Kosa up to start the season. I think a lot of fans are going to be upset when that happens, but I just don't think he's ready yet. And I think you have, unless Talbot retires, which is a very big possibility, if he just decides to walk away from it, you're paying both of those guys to be here. You're paying both Talbot and Mrazek to be here. So I don't know if you would do that if you expect Kosa to be ready to be the guy next year.
I would want to see some improvement on the D-corps before I'm risking Kosa's confidence.
Yeah.
And he will be close to being ready at the beginning of the season, but I do think he's going to start in the A, get his footing, make sure he's improving like he has the last two seasons. And then when the D-corps looks like it's solid enough to bring him up, I think they're going to bring him up. And at that point, they'll explore either a three-man rotation or trading one of the two, Talbot or Mrazek.
What are you going to give for Talbot, though? You're not going to trade
future
Mrazek.
Considerations.
Yeah.
I mean, you got rid of Husso. You can find a way.
That's fair.
There's always a team that's – and like it's not like Talbot's awful. I mean, for a team that's
really
has goaltending issues, he's the best of a worse situation, if that makes sense.
I feel like he'd be a good two on a good team. Like, if Talbot's your backup and you're a Stanley Cup contender, then you're in pretty good shape.
I would agree with that. And I think that there are a few teams that would make a move like that. But I'm not banking on the fact of moving Talbot.
I'm just hoping Talbot retires, and then we can just be like, all right, let's go with Mrazek and Kosa. But
that would be a dream.
Yeah, it's probably not going to happen.
It's probably not going to happen. And another thing that's probably not going to happen anytime soon is the slander that Dylan Larkin receives. And that's something that I just cannot tolerate anymore. I really can't. Dylan Larkin does so much for this team in every facet of the game. He is a great center. Plays great defense, wins faceoffs, blocks shots, kills penalties,
scores goals.
And he deserves zero slander. You want to say that he can't be the leading scorer on a championship-level team? All right, I'm with you right there.
Yeah, that's fine.
But one thing you can't say is that he can't be a 1C on a championship-level team because there's a difference between being a 1C and being a top-scoring option. They don't go hand in hand. What I expect Dylan Larkin to be is a great all-around center, a number one center. He deserves to be that. And you need two guys who are better scorers than him to be a championship-level team.
You got one.
And you got one in Lucas Raymond. So what more do you need? You need one more superstar that can bring up the 5-on-5 scoring.
I was going to say you got one in DeBrincat.
Yeah. I think DeBrincat...
I need to see more out of Lucas Raymond. I thought Lucas Raymond was on track to be that guy. Lucas Raymond at the beginning of the year was playing like a top 10 wing in the NHL. He has fallen off a cliff. And I don't know if that's just the wear and tear of the NHL season.
I think the Four Nations really put him in a bad spot.
I'm not giving him that excuse, man. Everybody's the Cat didn't play the Four Nations either, and he didn't drop a beat, man. He's been out there taking care of business. I expected Lucas Raymond to be the superstar on this team this year, and he started off like that, but he hasn't done anything since that Four Nations break, and I think he needs to do more. This team would be, if Lucas Raymond was playing how he was at the beginning of this year, this team would be comfortably in the playoff position.
I agree, and I think just the wear and tear has gotten to him, and I know that that's not an excuse that you can give him, but he just does not look like he has the same jump and zip out there that he had at the Four Nations, before the Four Nations.
And I love him, but like, the time comes where it's, all right, this kid Lucas Raymond is pretty good, and he's got some talent, and we can see him being something to, all right, I need you to be a fucking 40-goal scorer. Yeah. And that's what I expect him to be. That's what he needs to be on this team if they're going to have playoff success. And I know he's still young, and I know he's not going to be, defined this year as what he is in his career, but we saw last year he carried this team to give them playoff hopes at the end of the season. If he could have kept that same magic going all year, they would have been comfortably in that first wild card position. And he fell apart. And that is something that a young player has to learn in the NHL. When you have the expectations, when you're on the first line, when you're expected to be that guy, you got to learn how to keep that going and keep that magic alive. But I know it's like, welcome to the league, kid, and now you're a superstar is kind of what it's been for Lucas Raymond. But still, you're under 25, but I need you to play like you're one of the best wings in the league, because that's the potential you have, and that's what you've shown us. The back half of last year and the beginning of this year, he's playing as one of the best wings in the NHL.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. I agree that we need more. I'm not going to let this define his season, though. I'm just going to expect more when it comes to
because he showed it to us.
Yes.
He's shown us he can do it. He's shown us he can play at an elite wing level. And that now the next step for him is to consistently do that for a whole year.
100%. And he's, in my opinion, he's a future 90, 100 plus point
he's
guy.
He's on track for 90
and
this year.
He's going to continue to grow, and he just needs to find that consistency, and that's what you've struggled with when you're a young player.
Yep.
And that's the next step for him. And
absolutely.
And
I expect him to make it. I'm not writing the book on Lucas Raymond. Like, he's still a very young, very talented player. But that's the next step he needs to make. Is he's shown us he has it. He's shown us he belongs with the best of the best on the ice and making plays. Now he needs to show us he could do it for a full season.
Yes, 100%. And another person who I want to see do it for a full season after doing it for this season is Cat.
Yep.
I want to see if he can sustain this success over the past year, and I want to get to that point where I feel like Cat is a shoo-in every year for 35-plus goals like he is this year, but hasn't been the last 2 years.
Yeah, I know. Neil's looking at you kind of crazy, because if there's one thing that Cat has done, it's been he's shown us. Like, he's shown us he could do it before on multiple teams now. So I think that Cat is very position-driven.
Yep.
To where, like,
line made dependent.
Line made dependent. If he gets the puck in his spots on his stick, he's gonna put it in the back of the net.
Yes.
He's not gonna be the guy, the McDavid, the Draisaitl, the McKinnon, and these guys that you see weaving in and out and making plays for themselves and just these amazing goals. That's not his game. That's not who he is. He is an assassin. He is a sniper. You put him out there, you get a guy that's gonna get him the puck and put him in the right position, and he's gonna bury it. That's why I like him with Kasper, because Kasper's a big physical center. He can set that guy up very well, and you have him on the wing ready to go. I think Cat will be fine. You know what you have in Alex DeBrincat. I think he is like what he is. He is a complete player now. You know what you're going to get from him. But yeah, he's very line mate dependent, and you need to make sure you're putting him in the best positions possible. And when he's in those positions, more likely than not, he is going to take care of business.
And that's what I'm talking about. The fact that I need him to have good line mates. I need us to resign Kane next year and keep him afloat with Kane and bring in some more guys to help him in the future. But that's the thing. I just want the consistent line mates so he can be a consistent goal scorer, because when he has the line mates, he is a very, very good goal scorer and can carry a playoff team into the playoffs with his scoring. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Now, you saw how the Capitals choked us out.
Yes.
And why it's so funny, because we were in the exact same position as them last year. Mm-hmm. They just made it in the playoffs over us as an 8th seed. They got kicked out of the first round easily. They got absolutely bodied by Carolina, I believe. And they were like, all right, enough's enough. Let's make some real fundamental changes.
Yeah.
They traded away their goalie, Darcy Kemper. Mm-hmm. They brought in Logan Thompson. They brought in Roy. They brought in Chichurn.
Yeah.
They brought in Dubois.
Yep. Physical,
defensive players who can play 200 feet.
Exactly.
That's what made the difference for them this year. That's what you need to have this year if you're the Red Wings. You need to bring in guys who can play 200 feet and bring up the bottom half of this roster to get the depth you need.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't say it any better than that. This team is soft. We've been saying it all year. They're soft. And if they make the playoffs, which I don't think they're going to, that's going to be on full display even more. Like, you see them being soft in the regular season game against the Capitals in the third period. What if you're in a first-round series against the Panthers? What do you think's going to fucking happen on that ice? So you definitely need some more well-rounded players. I thought guys like Comfer, he was playing well. Kopp was playing very well before the injury, obviously. But you need more of that. You need more wings that are going to go out there and they're going to play the entire ice. And like you said, that's what Washington did. Washington said, all right, we got maybe 3 or 4 years left of very good Alex Ovechkin. We're going to put some guys around him, to cover up his flaws, to
Yep.
cover up what he really can't do anymore. Because he's not the grade 8 anymore. I know he's still scoring 40 goals, but he's not laying people out in open ice and stuff like that.
He plays a lot more near the net. He gets a
Yeah.
lot more tipping goals, rebound goals, a lot more getting to the net, getting gritty comparative to his usual sit out in the wing and take clap bombs.
Yeah.
And all right, here's like the real kicker question. This is the last question. So and it's a good one because it's about ASP. And ASP has been known. Eisman said stuff about it that he's coming to North America when his season is over
Yes.
to either play in the AHL or to play in the NHL. That vision is yet to be clear. And my question to you is: are you willing to poo-poo the rest of the season if we lose 2 of our next 3 on this road trip and just let ASP play in that?
I'm willing to
6
poo-poo the
defensemen.
rest of the season right now. Like, I don't think this Red Wings team is a playoff team. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. So if that means you could bring up ASP and give him some ice time, I think you do it absolutely.
I'm 100% with you. I think that could be the best thing for him. You saw
Absolutely.
what it did for Edvinsson last year. It made him not have to play more in the AHL and allowed him to come up here and grow and strive in the NHL,
Yeah.
giving him that limited time, and especially for ASP where he's going to be coming from a bigger ice. They play on Olympic-sized ice in the SHL.
Yep.
He's going to need to make that adjustment, and that
and
adjustment.
the physicality. It's
Yes.
going to be like, hey, kid, like, you're great. You look great with the puck on your stick, but the NHL's a different beast.
Yeah. And you're coming from being one of the biggest kids on the ice at all times to kids who are your size, your speed, and it's going to take a while. And I'm willing to, especially with Gustafsson being hurt. If Gustafsson's out,
You don't have another offensive defenseman on your team.
no, there is no reason why ASP shouldn't be on this roster getting minutes, trying to
Over
develop
Rafferty.
into the player that you need him to be next year.
Yeah.
You need him next year.
You do.
Like that is so clear that you need him. Think about how
He would solidify your top pairings.
Yes.
And you need that. And maybe that's rushing him. If you're rushing right into it and saying ASP needs to be on your top 4, maybe that's rushing it next year. But I think you're at a point where, like, what's there to lose?
he's him.
What's there to lose? You're going to get another year of Ben Sherratt in your top 4. You know that's not going to fucking work. So give the kid a shot.
Give
And
the kid a shot.
Like you said, I was – ask Neil, ask Shaw, ask D-Mac, I was screaming for Simon Edvinsson to come up all year last year because you need to get him out there. And I think the same is true for Axel Sandin Pellikka. You need to get him out there, and you need to have him play some real NHL time, ice time, so he can feel what the league is like. And then when you need him next year, it's not something brand new to him.
Yep, sink or swim. You got to put him out there. You got to give him the opportunity to show what he can do. And if he's not performing and he looks out of depth, put him in the AHL for a couple games.
Exactly.
Let him do that. Let him do that, and then bring him into training camp next year and see how he adjusts after a summer of working out.
Like, what I don't understand the thought process of, like, if he's not looking good, if he's being overwhelmed. You've had Petrie and Gustafsson and Hall and those guys out there all year, and they're dog shit.
Yeah.
No offense to those guys. You're much better athletes than I am, but he can't be any worse than those guys.
No, I completely agree. And even if he is, it's worth just
Like, look at
giving him the
Johansson.
minutes.
Johansson was up. He came up. He's ready to go.
Yeah, I think that they gotta do this.
I agree.
They gotta give ASP those minutes. They need to see him improve. They need to see him develop, and they need to know what they have. They need to know what they have, because if you do give him the minutes this year, and he's not where you think he is, and you don't think he's going to be a viable option for next year, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Then you can sign someone
Yes.
to make sure you have someone who's competent. We got to stop just rolling the dice, trading Wallman before we get Trouba, like getting rid of players who would help this team. I know Wallman doesn't necessarily fit the scheme or fix the true defensive issues.
I'd rather have him than Hall.
But Wallman's better than Hall.
Yeah.
And even if you would have traded him at the deadline, you would have got a first-round pick for him instead of giving up a second.
Yeah, that's probably Steve Yzerman's worst move he's made as a Red Wing.
I would agree.
As the Red Wings GM. But I agree with you 100%. You need clarity of where he's at. And the only way to get true clarity of where ASP is at is to put him on the ice.
I agree.
Because then you could see, okay, he's not ready for this. He needs to start the next year in the AHL, and that's fine. If that's the case, that's fine. I'm not mad at that. It would be a very good thing if he came in here NHL ready, but I'm not even expecting that.
It won't change how good I think he's going to be in the future.
Absolutely not. But you need to see it so then you can figure out your roster accordingly.
100%. I agree. The Red Wings have some figuring out to do. Hopefully they can figure it out tomorrow against Las Vegas. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you so much for filling in for Flannel Spenny. It was a blast. Such great talk.
3-2 Vegas.
3-2 Vegas.
Yeah.
All right, I got 5-3 Vegas. I think we're looking at an absolute shootout in Vegas. But that will do it. Woodward Wings, pleasure. Make sure you drop a like every Saturday, 10 a.m. These drop. I'm sure Spenny will be involved more in the future. I've been hoping for that, and then Flannel made it happen. So I'm sure it will be more and more Spenny time as we hit the rest of the season. But we'll catch you next one. Peace.